morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Misesa Instytut of Economic Education special panel. It is great to see you in good health and in person, finally. And while we spend the next minute or so thanking in silence our merciful overlords from the government for allowing this event to happen, let me share with you a few details about this panel. My name is Mikołaj Pisarski, and I am president of the Mises Instytut of Economic Education, an independent research institution based in Poland, founded in 2003 by Mateusz Machaj. And the topic of our session today is commemorating Carl Menger. The pretext to organize it, as I hope you all know well, is the coincidence of two round anniversaries. 150th anniversary of the publication of Principles of Economics, which Barbara had already mentioned, and 100th anniversary of Carl Menger's death in a beautiful old age of 81. And the goal of the session is to share with you the effects of a year-long quest that we at the Institute had embarked upon to commemorate and bring Menger out of obscurity and remind especially about the Polish part of his heritage in our country. So what justifies this are not only the effects that my colleagues will share with you about projects that we've already did and executed and some that are already in the making, but also especially the audience that we've chosen to reach with our endeavors. And among us economists, Menger is known, at least from hearing, as a father of a marginal revolution. Among our crowd, obviously, he deserves a well-respected esteem, which is evidenced by a large part of the presentations for this conference directly referencing his name. But to a general population, he remains almost completely anonymous. And this fact is nothing new. Even Friedrich August von Hayek, arguably the greatest star of our movement, had written in his introduction to the Principles that there must be few instances in economics or any other branch of knowledge where the works of an author who revolutionized the body of an already well-developed science and who has been generally recognized to have done so have remained so little known as those of Carl Menger. These are Hayek words from his forward to the Principles of Economics. But we at the Institute, we love a good challenge. And we embarked early this year on a quest to bring Menger out of this brink of forgottenment. And on our side, we had one crucial comparative advantage. Because as most of us know and understand, Menger died here in Vienna, but not that many of us pay attention to a place where he was born. And it was Neusandez, or Nowy Sącz, a town in southern Poland, which could be called an entrepreneurial capital of Poland, with the largest share of billionaires living there and the largest share of the large companies having their headquarters in this small hometown of the founder of the Austrian School, Carl Menger. That's why, and I can assure you about this, at the beginning of this year, the amount of people who knew it even in Nowy Sącz was smaller than the amount of lockdown supporters in this room, so virtually no one knew about this. And our first goal was to change this. We've launched an online petition, we've written some op-eds, and in no time I was sitting in a room with the president of Nowy Sącz, Ludomir Handzel, writing a declaration to commemorate Carl Menger in his hometown by giving his name to a roundabout, new roundabout in the middle of a city. And if you want to know one thing about the Polish symbolical order, roundabouts are a big deal. Usually the naming of them is reserved only to either John Paul II or one of the cursed soldiers, partisans who fought the communists after the Second World War. So it's virtually as important as you can get in our symbolic order. We knew that for the vote on a city council to succeed, there will be some convincing to do. So we've reached out to a Polish publisher of Menger Principles of Economics. There is a Polish translation. It's been for over 10 years already. And a nice gift accompanied by now a few thousand signatures of the citizens of Nowy Sącz made its way to every member of the city council. The day of the vote came. And the president, who was putting forward the bill and making me a rapporteur to it, made sure that it will be a very important session. There was a new budget to be voted on, and there was a long discussion about the secret police control in one of the city companies, so-called new normal under Law and Justice government in Poland. So if I were to ask you, out of these three, the budget for a rather large and important city, the secret police control, and Carl Menger, which got the most attention and about which discussion was the longest? If you'd bet on Menger, you'd be correct, because it took over 2 hours of a streamed and watched closely by journalists discussion in which I was able to talk about him and present our case. And one of the council members was putting a tough fight against Menger. From claiming that he was basically conquering Nowy Sącz weapon in hand for the Austrians, to even at one point claiming that the supporters of a local football club are texting him by the dozens, demanding that the commemoration of an occupant representation to be stopped. He was really tough nut to crack on. But finally, the voting came. 1 against, 1 abstaining, and 24 commemorating Carl Menger in his hometown. And for a brief moment, thank you. And for a brief moment, Poland was whole again, at least in Nowy Sącz, because to my knowledge, this was the most unanimous vote, at least in the 2 council terms in this divided town, which reflect the divisive politics of our hometown. But giving Menger a piece of asphalt to reign over was never the goal in itself, because we well know that the monuments are prone to falling into obscurity as long as there are no people to care about ideas and theories that they stand for. And even here, less than 100 meters from this place, there is a Menger Tor, through which some of you might have even strolled unknowingly on your way to this conference, which now, while we were visiting it with Tomek, faces a bunch of posters dedicated to a Marxist initiative on Vienna's campus. So we knew that we want to leverage the attention that we've got and use it to finally fulfill the mission that our institute is dedicated to, and that means promoting the Austrian school and educating the next generation of the economists in Poland. And luckily, the momentum was already on our side. The coverage of our endeavors had by that time reached over hundreds of articles, both in local and national press. The word of it reached a program council of a Polish economic forum, the so-called Polish Davos, the most important economic conference in the CEE region. And soon we've had the Federico, who was speaking here, Dominik Strukal, and our Matt Mahai delivering the Austro-Mengerian ideas from stage in one of the most important economic events of the year. And it was also held in person. In Nowy Sącz, things were going well as well. The Polish Austrian Association had made the 2021 the year of Carl Menger, and they've reached a series of their own inquiries into his life and time spent in Nowy Sącz. A local initiative which reaches over 1,000 of prospective students, founded by these big companies called Think, Bet of Entrepreneurship, had adopted Menger as its patron, and we got overwhelmed, to be true, because between a bid to name a new building for a local university with Carl Menger's name and commemorating him on one of the murals, we've basically lost track of who and how was jumping on a Menger hype train bandwagon. So, to me, the moment in which I understood that we've managed to, at least locally, achieve something truly remarkable and transfer Menger from complete obscurity into a somewhat of a superstar, at least for a moment, was when I visited Nowy Sącz later that year to meet one of our donors. And the hotels were still closed due to the lockdowns. I had to stay in Airbnb, and my host, a kind middle-aged woman, asked me, what do I do for the living? And I told her that, well, I teach economics. Oh, she was like, oh, did you know that a famous economist was born here, Carl something? They named a roundabout after him. So I think it's a testament that we've reached really low with the message about Menger. But we are a serious institution, and public stunts are not everything that we did this year and what we do to commemorate the founder of the Austrian School. This year, Polish Ministry of Education had approved a textbook, high school textbook, that will reach hundreds of classes all across the country, and through which Menger ideas will reach hundreds and hundreds of Polish students every year. We hope that we will be able to mirror the success that LFMI had in Lithuania, where over 80% of students are learning from a dedicated Austrian textbook at the high school level. As for today, my colleagues will share with you some other Menger-centric projects that we've planned and some already executed this year. Krzysztof Turowski will soon take you for a trip through the Polish years of Carl Menger, showing that the connection with our country might be stronger than most of us are usually aware of. Norbert Slenzok will present the contents of an anniversary monograph titled Vive la Révolution, 150th anniversary of Menger Principles, in which our economists are presenting his ideas in a contemporary context. This important book will have its premiere in less than 20 days from now during 8th Austrian Congress that we organize for our supporters and alumni. And this year, fittingly, it will happen also in Nowy Sącz. Next year, a translation into English will be also available to all of you. And finally, Tomek Agęcki will talk about what we consider to be a crowning jewel in our effort to commemorating Carl Menger and reminding about him not only to us, the Austrian, not only to the economists, but also to a general population, especially young students and university students. Tomek is an esteemed director, libertarian media personality, and a recipient of an Anthem Award for the best international documentary. And from this, you might have already deduced what this last project will be about. So, without further ado, let me give up the floor and invite Mr. Turowski to take you on a trip through the Polish years of Carl Menger. Thank you very much.